Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1567B, and today's date is May 14th, 2018, and the title of the episode is The Move, Forcing It All Out into the Open. Here Comes the Pain. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded an interview with Charles Hugh Smith. It is on the YouTube channel X22 Report Spotlight, so all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It will bring you right to the video, or you can go to x22report.com or newsentinel.com. You can look at these websites. All you need to do is scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You'll see the video on the right-hand side, and you can play it right on the website. Or you can go to Steemit, that is steemit.com/@X22Report, and you can play the interview right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, as we can see, the North Korea summit, well, it's going as planned so far, and it looks like North Korea announced it would begin officially dismantling its nuclear test site around May 23rd to 25th, and they're going to hold a ceremony, and they're going to allow journalists there. They're going to allow those from the U.S. and others to cover the event to show that they are dismantling their nuclear facility. And we can see right now that we are having peace in this region. And there is a reason for all of this. And if we go back in time, we can see that Trump has met with Xi Jinping quite a bit, spoke on the phone with Putin, but especially with Xi Jinping. And I believe he's on board with this. And I can see how everything is ramping up and how this is all moving in this direction. Now, we talked about the One Belt, One Road, and this is going to be the new trading system of the world. It's not the TTP, it's not the TTIP, it's not any of that stuff. That stuff has been canceled out, and that is not happening. That was the globalist system that they were going to use. And I believe what is happening right now is there are certain things that need to be done and certain things that need to be in place, and there's many different agendas associated with it. One of them was getting the deep state out of North Korea to allow the Chinese to work with North Koreans to meld South Korea and North Korea together, because this will basically help with the One Belt, One Road system. Plus, Trump right now is out there with the patriots removing the deep state from all these different areas. Remember, the globalists, the deep state, the neocons, the central bank, their push is to bring us to war. Their push is to basically have a one world government, a one world currency, because it would make it much easier to control the population, and they'd be able to basically take the entire world and make it one level playing field, so they can move workers from country to country, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Plus, having everyone in every single country, you wouldn't be able to tell what country's what. This is why this is part of their agenda. That's why they were having the refugees move into these countries to blend everyone. And they were trying to do this in preparation for the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And what this was going to do, it was going to allow a court system to sit above every single government. And they would be the deciding factor in every single one of these countries. That plan has gone down the drain. Now, because of the global system is breaking apart and falling apart, we need to basically bring in a new economic structure. This structure is the One Belt, One Road. There's like 70 countries that are signed on to this. The United States is eventually going to sign on to this. Trump is speaking with Xi Jinping quite often, and there are certain countries that need to be shut down with the deep state to get to a point where they have control of the country, just like North Korea, just like Syria, just like Iran, and the rest. And there needs to be peace in these regions to basically move forward with this. With this is the One Belt, One Road system. And I believe this is the end game for all of this. Now, as we know, Trump basically said, hey, listen, I'm canceling the Iranian deal. And it's gone. And the corporate media is going crazy. Everyone's going crazy. Israel used this to attack Syria. And again, Israel is something separate and apart from what is really happening with this Iranian deal. They believe that this was canceled, and now they have the permission to go and have war with Iran, which they're really never going to have, but they're trying to push their agenda in Syria to get rid of Assad and then eventually move into Iran. And that's been their goal. They're part of the deep state, and they've been trying to do this for a very long time. On the other hand, what is happening right now is those deep state players, they are becoming worried, afraid that they're going to be exposed. Plus, these countries now are moving closer to China and Russia. Now, if we look at Iran, we see that China's state-owned CNPC, this is the world's third largest oil and gas company by revenue behind Saudi Aramco and the National Iranian Oil Company, is set to take over a leading role held by Total in a huge gas project in Iran. Should the French, and this is French energy giant decide to quit because of the U.S. sanctions. Now, remember that this is a French company in there where Macron was in the United States trying to convince Trump not to cancel this deal. Now, the possibility of Total's pullout is quite high right now. And the scenario that China's gas and oil company will be able to take over completely and fully. Now, China has also launched a freight train service that connects its northern regions to Iran's capital, Tehran, which is going to be huge because it's a major connectivity project of vital importance to flow of trade between the two countries. This is part of the One Belt, One Road system. China has also launched a long-distance train service that would take cargoes from its east to Iran through a route of above 10,000 kilometers, what would be one of the world's longest rail routes. Iranian officials have indicated that the ultimate aim is to extend the rail route to Europe, positioning Iran on a key stretch to the continent. Now, this might go through Turkey, through Syria, then through Turkey, up through Europe, and basically this would cut down the time by 20 days compared to ocean shipping. This is all part of the One Belt, One Road system. Now, since Trump canceled the plan, what has happened so far? Now, remember, Q has been posting that there have been bribes, there's slush fund accounts, there's corruption everywhere. Europe and the deep state, they created this deal to benefit themselves, and we're starting to see a lot of this stuff come out right now. So after Trump announced that the U.S. is going to withdraw from the Iranian nuclear deal, and this was brokered by Obama, we see the UN's top nuclear inspector, well, he unexpectedly resigned. Now, what was the reason that this individual resigned? Well, there was no explanation, only citing confidential personal matters. Very interesting. Now, remember, this was the Director General of the IAEA and head of its Department of Safeguards. Now, once again, they're the ones who are saying that Iran was not developing a nuclear weapon. Do I think Iran was developing a nuclear weapon? At this point, no. I think they were dealing, and I think there were many individuals dealing in other things. With all this slush fund money, with the Uranium One deal, with everything like that, where they can blame this later on Russia, and I think there's a lot of things that are corrupt here. We also need to understand that the agreement that Obama created with John Kerry isn't really a treaty. This is kind of, and I discussed this with Charles Hugh Smith, this is more of a faux treaty. Because if it was a treaty, it would have been approved by the United States Senate and confirmed by our government and ratified. And that would mean that we would have a treaty. But this was never a treaty. The president, and that was Obama, refused to submit it to Congress, knowing it was such a weak deal, and there was certain elements within the deal they didn't want Congress to see. They wanted to keep it a secret, and they never submitted it to Congress. And you can see right now, that this puts Obama in a pickle. Because right now, they're going to all be found out in what was really happening. Now, what's very interesting, the foreign minister, Mohammad Zarif, he has embarked on a whirlwind diplomatic tour to gauge the international readiness to guarantee Iran's interest. Now, what is he really doing? He's going to each of the European countries saying, listen, what are we going to do about this? How serious are you with in keeping the JCPOA? Are you ready to pay up to keep us quiet? And this is why he's out there. Now remember, John Kerry, well, he was caught with the Iranians talking about this deal. Now, why would he take his time? If this was an up-and-up deal and it was all out there, why would he have to go behind the scenes, meet with the Iranians, violate the Logan Act, because he met with them illegally, to counter what Trump is doing? Think about this for a second, because they're nervous and afraid that all this information is going to be coming out. Even the Washington Post is pointing the finger at John Kerry, saying, I thought we didn't like Americans who colluded with our enemies. Remember, the corporate media, the deep state, they've been telling us that North Korea, Iran, they are our enemies. They want war with us. They're going to nuke us. They're very dangerous. They support terrorists. But yet, our former leaders, they're violating the Logan Act, and they're colluding with the enemy because we're believing their narrative. That's very interesting. Think about this for a second. Think about what they're doing. Why would they go unless there's something to hide? You really think they're doing it for our safety? Because it was such a great deal that we have peace in the region? Really? We have peace in the region. They invaded during their tenure. They invaded all those countries. They destroyed the infrastructure. They put in puppet governments. And they kept us in war all of these years. Why? For their profits, for their control, for their system. Now, Macron is very, very worried. He has called Trump, and these phone conversations, they're talking about how Macron is worried about the Middle East stability. Translation, we're really worried about what you're going to find out and what's going to happen to all of us. And he's trying to stop this whole thing from happening. And I know a lot of people see this document out there where there's going to be regime change in Iran and it's all been leaked out and things like that. Well, I hate to tell everyone this. Regime change is not part of the Trump administration policy. Never was. This is why there was no regime change in North Korea. When everyone thought we were going to war, when they were going to fire missiles and hit Alaska, hit Chicago, hit all these places, they were going to bomb our ships, and we heard all this going back and forth, it turned out to be peace. The same thing is happening right now. All Trump did at this point was say, hey, I'm canceling this deal. He's going to let the deep state do everything else. He's going to let the deep state expose everything else, because what is happening right now? Everything is falling apart from them. And if you don't believe this, let's think about this for a second. Iraq right now basically cut off the Islamic State at the border. They can't come back into Iraq now. They're stuck. We have the Turkish forces, we have the Iranian forces, we have the Russian forces, we have the Syrian army, all closing in on the Islamic State. Yes, Trump and the patriots, those generals are actually going after the Islamic State, because who are the Islamic State? They are the paid mercenary army of the deep state. That's who we are fighting. We're not fighting a terrorist group. We're fighting a paid mercenary group, which is controlled by the deep state. And the coalition forces like Germany, like France, like Israel, like the UK, they're all part of this. And that's what is happening right now. And we can see that they're losing a lot of territory. And it's happening very quickly. The funding for the Kurds, for their armed forces, the training for the moderate rebels, the funding for the moderate rebels, the funding for the white helmets, all cut off. Done. This is the deep state. They just cut off everything for the deep state. Same thing in Afghanistan. The forces up there are going after the Islamic State, the deep state, the poppy fields, and all that other stuff. They're shutting them down at the source. They're removing their funding. That's what they're doing right now. Yes, can they find funding other places? Yes, but the majority of their funding is being shut down, which makes it very, very hard for them. The Islamic State, 5 leaders were caught. This was in Iraq. The Iraqi officials, they basically tricked them using an app and captured them. And guess what they're going to do? These paid mercenaries, they're not getting paid enough to basically keep quiet. They're going to talk unless the deep state comes in and 187s them, and that will be that. But we see that things are rapidly falling apart in this region, and now we have the cancellation of the Iranian deal. And everything is moving very, very quickly. This is a gigantic puzzle. Remember, the deep state has their hands everywhere. This is why it's the deep state. It goes down really, really deep, and there's many, many levels. So you just can't snap your fingers and have everything said and done. Then, well, that happens in the movies, but this is real. And it's very, very different. We see something was going to happen in Hawaii at the Waikiki Hotel, almost like the Las Vegas shooting. A man claiming to be a federal agent was found posted up in a Waikiki hotel with a large cache of weapons, knives, armor, much like Stephen Paddock, who was a patsy, and he possessed a huge amount of weapons, and it looks like he might have been preparing to do something. He was a 38-year-old man, and basically the police were tipped off. They knew where to find this individual. He had about 800 rounds of ammunition. And again, I believe this individual was a patsy, and it looks like they were trying to set up for some type of false flag. And the police, they went in, they found him in room number 803 in the Equus Hotel, and it looks like they were planning to do something, almost like the Las Vegas shooting. But this was stopped. We see Q has dropped some more intel here, and I know there's a huge discussion right now. Is Q a psyop? Is Q real? And a whole thing's going on with InfoWars. Well, I go back to this. Q right now in all Q's posts is talking about unity, truth, patriots, fighting the deep state. How is that a psyop? Because they're leading us in the wrong direction. So far, I'm comparing indicators and news that we are finding out to what a Q is doing. And so far, I haven't seen anything where they're leading us in the wrong direction. We're actually seeing things unfold pretty much the way it does happen. And the future does prove the past, showing that, okay, things that he mentioned in the past, wait to the future and you'll see those things come true. And we've seen many things come true. And we see right now, to basically shut this all down, all Q needs to do, and maybe an Anon can do this, or if anyone else can do this, post something on the boards saying, listen, let's put all of this to rest. Let's see if Q has a direct line to the president. All you need to do is have the president say something like, the quality of work that we do is real. And the quality meaning the Q in that, saying that yes, Q is real. Have him put that into some type of speech, and let's wait to see if he says that. Now, if he does say that, everything else that everyone else is saying is basically fake, phony, and false. And all these individuals that are saying that they're receiving information, well, Q has already said he only talks on the board. He doesn't speak to other people in private and send letters and things like that. That's not being done. So right now, Q is not looking for money. Q is not looking to have followers. Q is not looking for anything except giving us this information and having us look at it, and Q wants us to use our brain, do a little research to find out information. Now, is the Q the be-all, end-all? No. It's just another source of information, and you need to do some work to find out other information. There's a lot of Anons. There's a lot of, like Neon Revolt is doing a lot of research. All these places are doing a lot of research, finding out all this different information that goes along with the questions that are being asked. And the alternative media has been doing this way before Q. This is just an added bonus. So when you look at this, you look at it and say, okay, what is Q trying to say here? Is it true? Is it false? Let's do a little research and let's find out. So let's go through some of Q's posts. Q post 1350, May 13th. Q gave a link, nationalsecurityaction.org, who we are. And when we look at this, we can see it comes up to a website, and the website, and actually an anon came back with it saying, okay, here are all the people. Ben Rhodes, National Security Action Co-Chair, Jake Sullivan, National Security Action Co-Chair, and it has many people listed here. And the caption underneath are, we are Americans, former senior officials and policy experts, academics, civil society leaders who have been seen firsthand how the United States is stronger, safer, and more respected in the world when we stand strong with our allies, pursue principled diplomacy, and stay true to the values that have long defined America at home and abroad. And this is what it says on their site. Now, most of these individuals are ex-Obama staffers. And you got individuals like former Senator Barbara Boxer, Tom Daschle, Susan Rice is also in there. And remember, she was the one that authorized the unmasking of Trump, his team during the 2016 campaign with those FISA warrants. She is also now on the board of Netflix, on the board of directors there. And you can see that she'll be pushing a lot of propaganda through all of this. So we see right now that these are all swamp creatures who have allied themselves in opposition to Trump. And if we look at post 1352, Q drops something where it's all caps. It says loop. Now, a lot of people thought, well, maybe that means loop around again and read it again. But loop, well, this is the national security action which is funded by Loop Capital, the same Chicago-based investment group that backed and groomed Obama for the presidency. Now, this group is a group of corrupt financiers who are not only siphoning money from taxpayers and laundering funds internationally, but actively working to subvert the U.S. So let's move on to post 1353, where an anonymous Anon said, May 13th, FBI and Department of Justice must clean. Once cleaned, implication huge. Don't forget the judges, though. Many comped. And Q went on to say, why are D's slow-walking POTUS federal judge nominations? Watch what happens, minus 30 in brackets bolded. They are slow-walking them because whenever POTUS nominees get into power, they start purging all the individuals. Pompeo, Sessions, Huber, Haspel, they're all working to drain the swamp. It is a very involved process, no doubt, but it has to be done methodically to be done right. And when he says, watch what happens in minus 30 with brackets bolded, most likely that's 30 days. So in the next 30 days, let's see what happens with all of this. Post 1354, May 13th, 2018, referring to that nationalsecurityaction.org, who we are, those corrupt financiers who put the Obama into becoming the president, who are out there. They are the shadow government. These are the targets. These are the individuals. Post 1355. What must happen pre-11/11? Now remember, Q came out, and the president also came out and said, we're going to have the parade of parades on November 11th. We know World War I, that was the end of the war. We know this is Veterans Day. And Q went on to say 11/11 provided a strategic marker. Post midterms, red wave coming, strength, justice. Midterm elections have to happen on November 6th, namely, so those have to be secured. Now, if we move on to post 1356, May 13, 2018, Q went on to say a group representing German trade interests said that the U.S. decision to withdraw from the deal will hit German companies and urged the EU to protect their interests. Trade between Germany and Iran reached 3.4 billion euros. That's $4 billion a year last year, according to the BGA, another foreign trade association. And Q went on to say, what about Total SA? Total SA is a French multinational integrated oil and gas company and one of the 7 super major oil companies in the world. Who recently visited the White House? What was their purpose? Coincidence? What about the safety and security of the world? What about preventing Iran nuclear capabilities? Fake news. Will the EU resort to protecting the deal so the money flow remains in place? Why is Kerry in the EU? Violating the Logan Act. We just talked about that previously in this report. Will the U.S. be forced to ban and declare certain EU countries off limits? Who controls elected leaders? Who do elected leaders report to? Pickle. Will Iran expose the names of corrupt officials? Pickle. Will the U.S. expose the names of corrupt officials? Plus con deal. We await your answer. Brackets bold 48. On guard. Now let's go through this. The cabal, the affiliated powers in the EU, are fighting to protect their vested interests. Macron and Merkel ran to the White House. These globalists have already colluded with all their corporate pals. They spent so much money, literally, they poured billions into Iran because they never thought that they would lose this deal. They thought this was said and done and everything was great. And now, Trump just yanked the rug out from underneath them. Kerry is traveling around the world trying to salvage whatever pieces of the deal that he can. The deep state, the cabal, will wait a few years if they have to. Remember, they always try to reach their goal. They never stop. And all they do is they rework their plans. And basically what they're trying to do right now is they're trying to keep the deal in place, hopefully wait out Trump where he's no longer president if that time comes, and go back to what they were doing. This is what they're trying to do. So they're hoping to keep everything together until 2020, where they maybe can steal another election. But I think Trump is working on something with patriots to stop that from happening. So they're still trying to do the same thing that they've been trying to do, the deep state. They haven't given up on their goals. They're still going to pull off events. They're still going to try to do all of this because they still have a certain amount of power. This is why they're running around Europe like crazy, trying to hold everything together because they don't want to be found out. So while the deep state is trying to push their message through the corporate media, trying to convince everyone that what they're doing is right, you need to follow them, even though in the background they're doing many other things, they're completely corrupt, and they're trying to push this one world government, trying to bring us to war. We have Q, who started the Great Awakening to try to counter all of this, where they were trying to push Annans into doing research and to push this idea of hope out there to every single person, and to basically take what everyone has found, which is truth, and put it out there. Because once you have the truth out there, propaganda cannot shut down the truth. The truth will always stand tall. No matter how much you say something about it, the truth has facts behind it. That's why the deep state, the cabal, that's why they're afraid of the truth. Remember, Hillary Clinton is in New Zealand, and the taxpayers of New Zealand were forced to give her foundation about $5.5 million. And they gave it to the Clinton Foundation. Why? Because she was blackmailing them to keep her quiet. So we see right now that this whole thing is a battle that's going on between two factions, the Patriots, Trump, and the deep state. And yes, there's many other different factions in there. Now, Q uses the word pickle. who controls elected leaders, who do elected leaders report to, Pickle. Will Iran expose the names of the corrupt officials, Pickle? And they quickly learned that an internal name for the CIA is the Pickle Factory. And this was an article written back in June of 1977. The CIA, an old salt, opens up the Pickle Factory. And it has to do something with CIA operations. So, yes, the CIA infiltrates nations, installs and directs puppets to coordinate all sorts of actions worldwide. So if Trump starts declassifying all sorts of intel, it completely exposes the CIA. Will the U.S. expose the names of the corrupt officials and con deal? Well, if they do expose all this, the CIA is in a pickle. Those in the deep state, they're in a pickle. And this would shutter their entire operation. And I think this is coming. Now, we see also in this post, it says, "We wait for your answer," brackets 48 in bold. I don't think he's talking to the American people. I think he's speaking to an individual. Number 48 is the state of Arizona. Who is the senator in Arizona? No Name. I think he's talking to No Name right now. We await your answer, number 48. Saying, what are you going to do? Now, is No Name, as we know, is John McCain. Is Q saying, listen, do you want to flip? Do you want to come to our side and help us out? Or are you going to continue to do what you're going to do, and we are going to expose every single person? This is very interesting. And we see right now that No Name, which is McCain, he is using the cover of being ill. And he's continually using this. And Q is saying that this is a cover. So it looks right now like they're giving McCain an opportunity to move to their side. Let's see what happens. We see right now Q put up pictures on different posts with John Kerry and Assad. We see Pelosi is with Assad, and the post says full circle. It's all connected. He gave a very big link with all this. Welcome back, Huma Abedin. Now comes the pain. Now, Kerry met with Assad many times, trying to convince Assad to step down. And this photo, I think it's from December 15, 2015. Pelosi met with Assad on April 4th of 2007. And Kerry tried over and over and over to get Assad to step down. It just never worked. And it looks like Huma Abedin might have been out of the country trying to gain protection. And it looks like Huma Abedin might be back. We didn't see Huma Abedin with Hillary Clinton in New Zealand, so where was she? And of course, they know exactly where she is. They are tracking all of their movements. They know exactly who they're connecting with, and they know exactly what is happening. This is why Q is saying, now comes the pain. It looks like they have the evidence. It looks like they're moving forward. And in regards to April showers bring May flowers, I think we're almost there, because with the cancellation of the Iranian deal, we're starting to see a lot of these deep state individuals scramble. And I believe that a lot of this is going to start to come out now, and a lot of information is going to come out, which is going to bring us May flowers, and we'll have to watch how this completely unfolds. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.